Welcome back to another episode of the DFS Express presented by Loudmouth MMA and the DFS Army. I'm your host, the Daily Fantasy Sniper, and on deck we have UFC Singapore. It is UFC Fight Night 132. The main event is Leon Rocky Edwards taking on Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Before we get started, as I ask every week, please give me a follow on Twitter at the DFS Sniper. Just one S. Also, make sure and check out the Loudmouth MMA podcast. If that's not how you're listening to this episode, you can find them on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher. A lot of great content there. And for your daily fantasy sports players, the DFS Army, not just MMA, NBA, MLB. We have World Cup going on right now. Some great tools there. If you're watching this on my YouTube page, which you should please subscribe to, if that is where you're watching, the link is down in the description. Use the code SNIPER for 10% off. Get access to all those great tools. Now for this fight card, we'll start with the main event. Leon Edwards is 8,600 taking on Donald Cowboy Cerrone at 7,600. I did forget to mention that if this is your first time watching or listening, DFS Express is DraftKings specific picks for MMA fights. And this is a perfect example where sometimes the better DraftKings play will not always be my pick in the fight. Leon Edwards is 8,600, Cowboy Cerrone 7,600. Leon Edwards is really popular. He actually has moved the line against Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Cerrone opened up as a minus 155 favorite. He is now the underdog in this fight, and Edwards is a big favorite at minus 210. Edwards has good striking, mixes in takedown more than I had thought before looking into it. Not great wins his last two times out. His last two wins were against Peter Sabata and Brian Barberena. Before that, he had good wins against Vicente Luque and Albert Tumanov, whereas Cowboy Cerrone really struggled since his move to 170. A win over Yancy Medeiros just shows that he can still hit someone who puts their chin out there. Look past Darren Till and got knocked out. A close three-round loss to Robbie Lawler, and before that was knocked out by Jorge Masvidal. He's been around for a long time. It's really interesting to me that he opened up as a favorite and is now an underdog. Everyone is on Leon Edwards, and I get it. He mixes up the striking a little better. He will look for the takedowns. That being said, Cerrone has got good takedown defense, 71%. And his slick off his back, we don't see it a ton, but when he's down there, he has a good guard. All things for me point to a decision win for Leon Edwards at 8,600. But if Cowboy does win, and it's a very close fight, I think it shouldn't be minus 210. It shouldn't be 8,600, 7,600. This should be just about a pick 'em. Both guys should be 8,100 or that 8,200, 8,000 split that we see. So I think there's value in Cerrone's pricing at 7,600. And if he does win, it's likely by head kick knockout or a submission, where he's likely to score higher than Leon Edwards. I don't think Edwards will be able to take down Cerrone at will, which is how he would score best. It is 5 rounds. I think this fight is stackable, but my GPP preferred play will be Donald Cerrone, just in the price range where we need value, and his path to victory is high scoring. 7,600, he'll be the preferred play. Tyson Pedro, 8,200, taking on Ovince St. Preux, 8,000. Two guys who, interestingly enough, are both overrated. Tyson Pedro, his last win was against Saperbeg Safarov. Before that, he got starched by Alir Latifi, and not starched, but he got dominated for 3 rounds, and then wins over Paul Craig and Khalil Roundtree. OSP, he's a guy who's been around for a long time, small gym in Tennessee, beats who he's supposed to beat, loses who you think he's going to lose to, those elite guys. He was put to sleep by Alir Latifi, first round submission. What sticks out to me is that Corey Anderson fight. He was down 2 rounds to none to Corey Anderson, who I think is about in the same level as Tyson Pedro, and then St. Preux caught him. I believe that was with a head kick. Corey Anderson notoriously does not have a good chin. I don't think Tyson Pedro is going to get caught like that. I think he'll be able to do enough on the feet to win rounds, and he's not going to get caught in that Vaughn St. Preux choke that we saw Yushin Okami tap to. And overall, I give a slight lean to Pedro everywhere. He's also the younger guy. Close fight. Not sure how much I'm going to roster of it, but Tyson Pedro is the preferred play at 8,200. Jessica Rose Clark, 8,500, taking on Jessica Eye, 7,700. Listen, I don't think Jessica Eye is very good. I wish the pricing wasn't where it was. I wish it was a little closer, but Jessica Eye could arguably be on a 5-fight losing streak. She got a close win against Kalindra Faria last time out, and then got in the mic and said she was the best flyweight in the world. UFC is being smart here. I think they're trying to build a star in Jessica Rose Clark. Wins over Beck Rawlings, Paige Van Zandt, who have decent name value but aren't great fighters. I think Jessica Eye falls in the same category. I think this is going to be a striking match, or could be a striking match, in which Jessica Rose Clark pieces up Jessica Eye for 3 rounds, because Jessica Eye has never won a striking match. She lost one to Betch Correia. And Clark has enough takedown defense to negate the game of Eye, and I think possibly could get a takedown in this fight. I like Jessica Rose Clark a bunch. 8,500 I think she's going to get lost a little bit, because Stars and Scrubs, I think, could be a popular type construction because there are favorites we want to pay up for. But I like Jessica Rose Clark a bunch in this fight at 8,500. Li Jinglong, 9,200, taking on Daichi Abe, 7,000. Speaking of one of those stars, Li Jinglong, I know he's coming off of that loss against Jake Matthews. Daichi Abe, though, is a counter striker. I don't think he's very good. Li Jinglong is a pressure fighter, looks for knockouts. He's boom or bust. He's not someone I'm going to play in cash, but he has 100 to 110 point upside because he's going to pressure. He hits hard. Daichi Abe could be live for tournaments just because he has the counter striking style, which on paper matches up well with Li Jinglong in the pressure. I just don't see it playing out that way for a finish, but he is in play for GPPs. Li Jinglong, though, is the preferred option at 9,200. Peter Yan, 9,300, taking on Teruto Ishihara, 6,900. The whole world is high on Peter Yan, and it reminds me another breakdown episode with Tony Fagnano of MMA Today, and it reminds him, made a good comparison to Bibliatov, in which everyone was high on him, and he goes out and he gets knocked out. Peter Yan is an ACB champion, 2 great fights against Magomedov. Striking, these guys match up well. They should stand and trade. Peter Yan, he gets hit a lot, from too much for my liking, and Teruto Ishihara does have power. That being said, Ishihara does appear to be on the decline, and I do think Peter Yan is actually better technically. Similar to the last fight, Ishihara isn't the worst play in the world, 6,900. There are people I like far less than him. But Peter Yan should control this fight. He's just making his UFC debut, so there's a little bit of worry there, but he's the preferred play. Felipe Aranches, 8,300, taking on Song Yadong at 7,900. Yadong is coming off of a win against Bharat Kandare, a first-round sub. Felipe Aranches has been around for a long time in the UFC. 2-fight losing streak. Last time out against Josh Emmett, I believe that was up a weight class because he had missed weight. We'll see how he comes in this week. These guys match up really well to me. I think they're pretty even technically in the feet. They both have a decent submission game. This fight's actually too close for me to really want to play either one of these guys and stack them in cash. I'm looking for a little more security. The fight pick, though, I'm going to lean towards Aranches just for that veteran savvy. He's been around a little longer, has faced better competition, so he'll be my preferred play in what I think is probably the closest fight on this card. Shane Young at 8,700, taking on Rolando D at 7,500. Rolando D, he's not good. He's 1-2 in the UFC, losses to Alex Caceres, Teruto Ishihara. His win against Luigi Burin last time out was not very impressive. Only landed 26 significant strikes. I don't think he's UFC caliber. Well, Shane Young took his first UFC fight last time out on short notice against a monster in Alex Volkanovski. He got beat up in that fight, but he showed some heart. He kept moving forward, looked okay. He did land a takedown in that fight. From what I've seen from him on tape, I think he's better both on the feet and on the ground than Rolando D, who I do not think is a good UFC fighter. So Shane Young's the play at 8,700. Song Kenan, 9,100, taking on Hector Aldana, 7,100. I have a big problem here in Aldana, in that he hasn't had any type of MMA fight, I believe, since 2015 in the he was on Tough Latin America 2. And before that, he hasn't had a sanctioned UFC fight since MMA fight, not UFC, MMA fight since 2013. He's coming in making his UFC debut. That's a guy I can't trust in any way. He looks okay on tape, but again, what has he been doing for the last 3 years? Whereas Song Kenan last time out took on Bobby Nash, knocked him out in the first round, looked impressive doing it. I know Bobby Nash gets knocked out a bunch, and Nash is a huge favorite in that fight. I can't roster much of a guy hasn't been in the cage in 3 years. Ring rust is real. I have some worries about Kenan paying off his price tag, but he'll be my preferred play at 9,100. Shinsho Anzai, 6,800, taking on the biggest favorite on the card, Jake Matthews, 9,400. Jake Matthews looked great last time against Li Jinglong. Takedowns he can get against Anzai, I believe, which is his strength. He can neutralize Anzai's biggest strength. He's better on the feet. Jake Matthews showed big improvements last time out. He's only 23 years old. He's 6-3 in the UFC. He's an up-and-comer. Hopefully he's got those injuries behind him here. I like him a ton. I think he's pretty safe. He's the most expensive fighter for a reason. Will be the clear preferred play at 9,400. Vivian Pereira, 8,800, taking on Yan Xiaonan, 7,400. I think Pereira is better. Her one loss is Tatiana Suarez, who is a monster. Yan is not going to bring that kind of grappling game. What Yan is going to bring is a brawling style, throws a lot of volume, and has a big size advantage against Pereira. Especially in cash, I don't think Pereira is going to put her away. I think Yan is an interesting play to score you some points in a potential loss, and she's live. It's still women's MMA. It could go to a decision here. If it does, Yan will have more volume, and they're fighting in Asia, which you never know when hometown scorecards are going to pop up. I think Pereira, though, is the more technical fighter. She clearly is the more technical fighter. If she can overcome that advantage, the size advantage of Yan, I'm picking her to win the fight. But at 8,800, I really have a hard time seeing her paying off her price tag. And I like the punt potential in Yan Xiaonan. So even though I'm not picking her to win the fight, she will be my preferred DraftKings play at 7,400. Naoki Inoue, 8,900, taking on Matt Schnell at 7,300. Naoki Inoue is too big of a favorite here, in my opinion. Matt Schnell, you have to worry about the chin. However, both guys are are grapplers on the feet. I think Schnell might be a little more polished, and if he can use his counter wrestling to not let Inoue take him down, I think he's a live dog here at 7,300. Grappling base could be a grappling based fight for either guy in a win, especially Inoue. So you can't fade him for that reason. But Schnell, with I think the better striking and enough counter wrestling. As long as the chin holds up, which is a big if, he will be my pick to win the fight and preferred play at 7,300. Ulka Sasaki, 9,000, taking on Janelle Lausa at 7,200. Ulka Sasaki should be able to get takedowns in this fight. Janelle Lausa looked really bad. His last time out against Eric Shelton was taken down 5 times. Sasaki's also big for 125. He is coming in on short notice. I do want to see how he looks in the scales. But he should, with that size advantage, should also you should be able to get body lock takedowns, eventually submit Lausa. How do I see this fight going? Lausa's path to victory is just he has power. He's a boxer. Could catch Sasaki coming in, but I think the more likely outcome is with my preferred play in Sasaki in takedowns, ground and pound, and potentially a submission, or he'll ride him out for 3 rounds. First fight of the card, the last fight we're going to talk about. Ji Yeon Kim, 8,400, taking on Melinda Fabian at 7,800. Interesting fight in that Melinda Fabian fought to a draw against Deanna Bennett. Ji Yeon Kim had a win against Justine Kish. I thought she was fairly impressive in, didn't score well, but I think that fight sets up really similar to this one in that both fighters have a floor. I think it's going to play out on the feet. I like Kim better. She has more volume. I think better footwork. I think she's just better all around. So in a fight like that, she will be my preferred play. Again, though, not a fight I'm going to have a ton in GPPs. just because neither fighter really has a large ceiling. Decent floors for both for the price tag. You could look them in cash. Not sure I will, but GE on Kim is the preferred play. So that's what I have for you for UFC Singapore. Again, check out the sponsors that I mentioned at the start of this episode. Give me a follow on Twitter at the DFS Sniper with 1S. Good luck in your contest. I will see you next week.